This oral history interview recording is being made as part of a collection for the Seminole County Public Library. These interviews capture the stories and experiences of residents in the area and students and educators from the Rosenwald School located in East Altamonte, Florida. Today is Thursday, November 30th, 2023. My name is Amy Marie Cantley, and I am interviewing Mrs. Cora Snead at the Central Branch Library in Castleberry, Florida. Mrs. Snead, do I have permission to record this interview and make it publicly accessible on the library website?
Yes.
Thank you. First question, when and where were you born?
I was born in Altamont Springs on William Street, across the street from where I'm presently living, behind the church that I was raised in. My great aunt's husband, the street is named for him and the church was named for him. So I am home. I was born in their house on October the 11th, 1942.
Thank you. Can you tell me about any childhood memories that you have of the area?
Childhood memories, yes. I can tell you a lot about the childhood memories, I think. Basically, families knew all of the families in the area. It was a sprawling community, but they were close-knit, even though they were far apart. They shared things. They were relatives, they were neighbors, they were cousins, aunts, and uncles. They purchased from the community store. I remember that. They ventured up to Mr. Fuller's store on the corner of now what is 436 and Ronald Reagan, which is 427. But that was a little off beaten path because that was in the white community. But Mr. Fuller knew everybody, and B.D. McIntosh knew everybody. The service station was right behind Mr. Fuller's store, to the back of Mr. Fuller's store on 427. And you have to remember, during that time, there were no street names. We didn't have any street names at all. You were either up the street or across the track, or you went to the post office, which was on 436. And the post office was right behind the present fire station. They just tore that building down. That was the post office at that time. Now, I don't know whether or not they had another post office. I think some of the mail probably went to the train depot, and I can't remember. Mr. Morris, I believe his name was, he and his wife. But anyway, the mail went to the post office, and everybody received mail in my community, general delivery. You didn't have an address at all. In fact, I started teaching my kids, when I started teaching at Rosenwald, I started teaching them, having them learn the P.O. box and where they were and their full name and parents' name, all of that. Dr. Overstreet was the doctor in the community. However, I did not go to Dr. Overstreet. I went to Dr. Skent in Orlando for general practitioner, and I went to Dr. Brayboy for dentist. Dr. Starks was in Sanford, and I remember him vividly taking a bunch of us in a van to Tallahassee to have our tonsils removed. Because during that time, you had to go in the back door to Overstreet's office because it was separated as to colored and white at that time. So there were a whole lot of things that I remember doing that time that not necessarily so nice. I was delivered by a midwife. In other words, my mom did not have access to a hospital or insurance or any of that stuff. The only insurance that they had was through the Watkins man they call, who came through, and the insurance people. Watkins man came through and sold little tidbits of goods to the community, like curling irons and things like that. And that's what he did. But the other things with that, needless to say, parents had to find a way to make a way for their kids. And then you had the other gentleman who came through, the Watkins man. He came through and he had mangoes and bananas and other stuff on the truck for the kids to buy and for parents to buy during that time. As I said, the community was very close. So you shared plants, you shared greens and vegetables and eggs and chicken, all of that. It was shared within the community. And not only that, the men in the community that had certain skills, they helped one another. So there were carpentry skills, there were other things that they could do. However, there were a lot of orange pickers in the area during that time. So that's basically what I remember about the community. I remember the store on Merritt Street now, which had no name, but the store. There was a store there. There was a drugstore there. Mr. Banks Ford had a drugstore. He was a pharmacist in Orlando, and he would bring out goods to his drugstore to sell to community members. There was a bar. There were three restaurants to be correct. There were three of them there. There was pool room. There was theater. We had a theater. Had a barbershop. All that was on Merritt Street. But with segregation, that kind of changed because people started going different places. They started visiting Orlando, which they had to ride the bus for that. Sit at the back of the bus, I must say, but they had to ride the bus for that. Or they caught a ride, we would say, into Orlando to buy certain things. So I remember that about the community. I remember the church members going down to Rosenwald, and there was access to Lake Mobile in the back. That's where I was baptized, in Lake Mobile. That's where a lot of the members of the community were baptized there, in Lake Mobile, behind Rosenwald School. So there are a lot of special memories with that. I remember people coming from Oviedo to play baseball, the big field behind Rosenwald. I remember having picnics behind Rosenwald. I remember a lot of things. I remember them delivering milk in the little bottles and the miniature loaves of bread from Marita to the school, chocolate milk, the regular white milk. I remember that. I remember us getting Christmas. It wasn't a gift. It was the little red mesh bag, like onions come in, and there were fruit. They had fruit in it. But however, we had fruit everywhere. There was fruit everywhere. But we did get a chance to get apples and that sugary candy. You know what I'm talking about. It's the green and the yellow and the little square candy.
The ones that come in like the small containers and they all end up clumped together. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
the
this was
ones?
sugar, confectioner's sugar.
Okay.
It was the little one. You don't see it very often now, but we remember getting that kind of candy back then at Christmas time. Basically, you know, I entered Rosenwald during the 48-49 year, first grade. Mr. Hamilton was my first principal. Mrs. Aletha Hamilton, his wife, was my first grade teacher. Mrs. Cedar Mason Neal was there, and Miss Charlotte Foster was there. So when I entered, I remember those three teachers. However, there was one other teacher there, Miss Blair, I do believe, but I think she later on moved to Crooms. The teachers there. The school was a 4-room school. There were 4 classrooms. 2 of the classrooms had a sliding chalkboard that would go up, and that would turn into the auditorium. The other 2 classrooms were at the front of the school. Now you have to remember, 1st through 8th grade, combination grades. So you might be in the classroom with 1st, 2nd, and some 3rd graders. You might be in the classroom with some 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Depending upon your learning skills and all of that, they place you in different places. I remember that much about it. However, the teachers were very creative with what they had. They didn't have a whole lot. They had the basic reader. They did a lot of teachable moments. Because we were right by the lake. They did certain things with us to teach us how to take care of ourselves and how to be responsible and all of that. There was no science book per se. When we did get books, we got used books from Lawton Elementary. And the older kids got used books from Millwee. They were off the state adopted list and handing it down to us. Okay, 1st through 8th grade. What else can I remember about that? Oh, the teachers made sure that the kids had supplies and had food to eat, even if it meant a classmate would share what they had, or the teacher would share what they had to make sure that everybody had something to eat. So, as I said, everybody was taken care of. The teachers were loving, kind, giving. Disciplinarians, though. When you were told to behave, you behaved. If not, when you got home, you had a problem, because we were taught to respect adults. Even if you got caught into something that you knew that you didn't do, you still kept your mouth shut. You respected that adult until it was all sorted out. So I remember that. As I said, teachable moments with the basic reader. They had, in the book, there were toys, pets, and playthings, and then they had birds, and that's where the little science would come in, and then you could watch birds outside, and that during that time, birds were plentiful. You could watch the birds outside. They taught cursive and manuscript writing, which they don't teach, I don't think, anymore, but they taught that. They had taught you how to speak. You had to speak in complete sentences. You got your oratorical skills through plays. We had plays, and that was in the auditorium where the boards would go up. That's where PTA meetings were held. That's where coronations were held. That's where any kind of county meeting that they needed to do and come to that school, that's where that was held. All of that was held there. We didn't have any heat. We had wooden stoves. So we gathered the wood. We washed the boards, swept the floors. So we actually kept the school clean. No custodian. Itinerant music teacher and PE teacher later, because the teachers would take us out for recess or whatever we had to do. I remember Miss Muse taking us to Hopper Elementary for basketball, because we would go, the large girls of 7th, 8th graders would go to Hopper Elementary and play basketball there. We did, what else did we do? Volleyball. We could do a little volleyball. Didn't have the right kind of net, but there were things that we could do, you know. And they made sure that we were well taken care of. No inside toilets whatsoever. Didn't get an inside toilet until 1951, I believe. That's when they did the annex. They put 2 additional classrooms on and bathrooms. Administration bathroom and bathrooms for the kids. Before then, it was an outside house. You had to go up on the hill to the bathroom. Water was from a fountain. You had to go outside. And to this day, I'm not really sure where the water came from. I'm not sure they had a deep well or if they had pipes to the Lake Mobile or not. I want to say there was a deep well, but I don't remember that part of it. I don't know. It was a real good experience, because we were taught how to take care of yourself. You were taught personal hygiene. You were taught how to do things at home. You were taught how to take care of your siblings, all of that. And the school was actually the hub for the community, because there were five churches, Williams Chapel, St. John, Free Will Baptist, Free Will Baptist, and there's another one, the Sanctified. I think I named five. But the five churches, they all went their different ways, but we all got together when we went to Rosenwald for the common good of the community. So the common ties were all done at the school. If there were things going on in the community or we needed to do something, it was there. I remember May Day, Platinum Maypole as we call it. I remember that. We did that on a regular basis every May. That was one of the activities for us, with all the different color ribbons to do the Maypole.
Did you have any favorite teachers that stand out?
You know, I had Mrs. Hamilton that I dearly love, and I had Mrs. Foster and Miss Cedar, because when I was there were the only three teachers, so you got a chance to get to all of them. And as I said, I think Mrs. Blair had moved on to Crooms at that time, so you had a chance to come in contact with all of the teachers and Mr. Hamilton. And I can't remember really what Mr. Hamilton taught. He taught something, but he didn't teach me per se. All of the ladies taught me at that school. I remember Mrs. Hamilton teaching me manuscript writing, the little book, Jip and whatever else it was. That I remember that. I remember Mrs. Charlotte Foster. She come in with what do you call them, dates? The little dates. She come in and she shared her dates with us, and she taught us reading and math and all that. I remember Miss Cedar Mason Neal. She was the one who was into grammar and writing and all of that, because she was taught some of the older kids. She was into that. So to say I had a favorite, no. I think all of them were possibly favorites.
They brought their own.
Yeah. They were favorites during that time. The library now, I remember the library. 4 rooms in a school, room here, room here, room here, room here, big hallway here, big hallway right down the center. You entered in the front door, there was the room, another room here. Right in the middle was the principal's office, which was about as big as this book, I might say. And right behind that was his office, which was wide open, was one table, and that was the library. On the other side, there was a little room over there where they delivered things. And later on, it turned into a little classroom. As we got more kids, it was used as a classroom. So they had doors on either side. On the side where the library was, they had doors across in that little room where they delivered things. And they had a door at the front of the building. The back part of the building didn't have any doors, but it had cloakrooms and lots of windows, as you can see on the picture.
So did the library, although it was small, did it serve as a community library as well, or was it just for the students?
It was for the students, but if parents came in and they wanted to see something, it was open. They could look at it if they want to go in and look at some books. But there weren't that many books, remember? Weren't that many books. We had basically workbooks until we got some of the books from the other schools. And then we had, a few more books. But then you had to share, okay, because they were distributed throughout the county to other schools that needed them. So, yes.
Did you have a favorite subject?
I can't remember having a favorite subject. I think I was just eager to learn just about anything and everything that they put before me. Because you didn't get that at home. You had parents who were working. They were working. They might have had a little workbook or something there at home for you. You had the Sears Care Log, and of course we had the Sears Care Log because Julius Rosenwald was part of that Sears thing. So we all got the Sears catalog. So you could look through that and see stuff, and and kind of say, this is what I want, and I want this and that. And I remember my mom ordering a dress for every day of the week. So there were 5 dresses and 1 for Sunday, and then you flip and you go back through it again. So yes.
And what grades did you go through at Rosenwald?
I went through no kindergarten because there wasn't a kindergarten there at all. I went through went from 2nd to 3rd. No, 2nd to 4th. I skipped a grade. And then I went all the way through 8th grade. There wasn't any place else to go. And we got kids from Fern Park, Longwood Markham Road, Altamont, and where else did we? Longwood. So all of those kids came in to that particular school. And then there were some later on, after 8th grade, a few went to Hungerford, and the majority of us went on to Crooms.
Over in Sanford.
Over in Sanford, yes.
What was that transition like for you from 8th grade into high school at a new school?
8th grade into high school, we knew all the teachers already because we had relatives and siblings, and all had gone. Even from Oviedo, because my mom had relatives in Oviedo, so we had a chance to see relatives at school. In high school, we had relatives to see. We had a chance to see people from Longwood that we had already been with. We had teachers. We knew the teachers already. My sister had gone to Crooms, and she knew all of the teachers. And of course, when they had activities, little sister tagged along, so we knew all of the people at Crooms. Mrs. Hurston, Zora Neale Hurston's family. We knew Mrs. Hurston was the librarian. Mr. Hurston was there, and later on their daughter came back and taught math. We knew them. We knew Miss Thomas. She taught physical education. We knew her. We knew the principal, Mr. Allen. And later on, Mr. Blackshear came in and was the principal there. And so we basically knew, because if you're in Altamont and Oviedo, you knew all of the people in the surrounding area. So it was a relatively easy transition. The biggest part of it was getting up early in the morning to catch the bus to wind through all of Longwood Markham Road to pick up all those kids and then get to Crooms. We were the first to get there and the last to leave because they had another route. They had to get over to Geneva. They had to get over to Midway. They got those kids home first because they were close, and then they come back and pick us up and we get back to Altamont. Miss Annie Mae Lovett was the bus driver. She had 2 daughters to finish high school with me, Bernice and Thelma. She lived in the Altamont area. So yes, it was easy transition. We knew everybody, and they knew all the families. So you had the same kind of thing going there. If you don't behave yourself, well, we know who to call, so we had the same thing going there.
Were you involved with any extracurricular activities?
Yes, Tri-High Y and New Homemakers of America. It's not called New Homemakers of America anymore. But yes, Tri-High Y all had to do with ethics and character and societal issues and all of that. That was a part of what we learned at school to get us exposed to other things other than just being there in high school. We had our subject areas, We had the math, the geometry, the home economics, and New Homemakers of America was a part of the home economics part of it, because you wanted to learn your personal stuff as well as how to take care of your home and the social issues and things that were relevant to young girls. Now, try Hawaii and Hawaii. I do believe the Hawaii was for the boys. So we had that, and New Homemakers of America, that was it.
So, as we know, the schools were segregated at the time. And even though Brown versus Board said that they weren't supposed to be any longer, it took the South
forever.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah, that's the honest way to put it. Do you think that the slow integration process had any impact on your education?
Not really. I got a pretty good education. I did. I got a pretty good elementary education. I went off to Fisk and got out of there in my 4 years like I was supposed to. However, I did go to Bethune-Cookman to get some education classes because my major was psychology at Fisk. And I forget, I was in a psych class, but it had to do with elementary education. And that kind of piqued my interest there. So when I got home, I was offered a job at Jackson Heights Elementary, which is now high school. And Mrs. Muller was the itinerant music teacher at my school when I went there, and Mr. Muller was the principal when I first started teaching. So you see how close it is. So not really. I mean, you knew that things were different. You knew that there were certain places you couldn't go. You knew that, well, for lack of a better word, you just knew to do what you had to do. And in Tennessee, it was the same way. It was the very same way, because that was during the time of the protest. All of that was going on at that time, and we were told not to go downtown alone, always go in groups. And that's when things were really rough. That's when John Lewis was there. He was in my class. That's when he was there, but he was spending time with the protests and all of that. He was very active with that. But I went to school at just turned 16. So they ask, if you're not 18 years of age, you don't need to be protesting. You need to stay on campus. So I did what I was supposed to do.
I imagine that was a big change, leaving the area so early to go off to college.
Yeah, it was different. But you know, when you come up in an area like Altamont, and it's so close-knit with people, and you've not been exposed to a whole lot of things, but you were taught how to take care of yourself and what to look out for and things not to do if you wanted an education and didn't want to be a domestic worker or a nurse. Few things were open, especially to women during that time. So you knew that there were certain things that you had to focus in on, you know. But Nashville was different. It was tough. It was right across the street from Meharry Medical College there. There's a medical school there. My brother finished there. So it was interesting. I had a chance to meet different people coming from the North who had been exposed to much, because they already were integrated, part of them, you know, of that. But coming from the North, it was a lot to absorb, with the differences in the cultures and what the girls knew or what the children knew at Fisk, basic what we knew or some of us knew, coming from a little town that had been kind of suppressed.
So was it at Fisk that you decided to pursue education, or did that come along later as far as a career?
It was at Fisk. I took that one psychology class which had to do with education, and my interest was tapped. When I got home, I thought, well, what am I going to do with the psychology? There's not much you can do with psychology unless you go on and get another major. So I said, well, maybe I'll go to BCC and get some education courses. So I did. I took music and some other skills from Shirley B. Lee, which was an excellent lady at Bethune. And she said, you need to, and so did Mr. Douglas, by the way, at Crooms. He had already told me, he said, you're going to be a teacher. He had already told me that when I was in high school. He told me that. You're going to be a teacher. He said, I know what you're going to be already. You will be a teacher. I said, no, I'm not teaching school. He said, well, we'll see. But anyway, I did go and I got the couple of education courses. And then my first job was at Jackson Heights.
And what did you teach there?
I taught fourth grade. So I taught all of the gamut,
everything in fourth grade.
Everything in fourth grade. I taught fourth grade, and then the next year I went back to Mr. Muse, Rosenwald. That's where I taught at my home school, where I finished. I taught for him, and I taught kindergarten, and then I taught I taught kindergarten and 1 year of first grade, I think, at Rosenwald. And then when integration came, we all went to Sterling Park. That's when they started the phasing out. And I think during Mr. Muse's time, that's when they cut it from first to eighth grade to first through sixth grade. And when I got there, that's when they had kindergarten going on at that time. It wasn't called kindergarten. What was it called? It was through 4C. It was a 4C for kids, Head Start, that kind of thing. And then it went into kindergarten, because before they had tried to get Head Start to give the kids a leg up to try to get with education and all of that. So I went into kindergarten. I loved kindergarten. So we went over to Sterling Park. All of those who didn't transfer out to someplace else, we all went over to Sterling Park. And when I got over to Sterling Park, I taught kindergarten. That's where I was. And then later on, I became a primary specialist at Sterling Park, helping kids with individual IEPs and teaching them how to learn through different modalities, because not all kids learn the same. So you have to vary in how you teach and what you give them in order to get them to learn. And I did that, and then we moved to I moved to Heathrow. Mr. Muse retired, he passed, and new principals came in, and then I moved over to Heathrow to teach, and that's where I finished my career at Heathrow. I was primary specialist there for a while, and then they cut the whole program out. So then I went back into first grade, which was my love. And at Rosenwald, the picture that you have there, the class, I taught my daughter in kindergarten.
Oh, how special.
So she's pictured on that. And I taught her in first grade, and her little cousins. They weren't in her class because they were a year. Tanya and Des, I do believe, they were a year behind her, and I taught them the following year in kindergarten. So I taught little cousins, and they called me Cousin Cora rather than Mrs. Snead. But yes, I taught them. So, yeah.
What was that like to return back to your former school as an educator?
It was great, because I felt like the kids needed somebody that understood the culture and needed the help with learning. So I was pleased to be at Rosenwald. I really was. I was asked to transfer to other schools, but I told them I would prefer to be at home and teach the kids in my community. So I stayed there until we moved to Sterling Park.
Yeah. Other than, if there's anything else that you'd like to share with me?
Well, as I said, there were the 5 churches. That was the common thing for us to get to the school, so we could talk about problems in the community and try to do different things. I remember too, I'm going to go flip back a little bit. We didn't have a telephone at Rosenwald. No, the principal didn't have a telephone until much later. He had to go to Millway in order to use the telephone. So there was no telephone there. That's hard to believe, but it's true. The coronations, of course, were started under Mr. Muse. The first grade, Miss First Grade, second grade, and Miss Rosenwald, that was started under Mr. Muse. The memory book, and it says there the initial yearbook was started under Mr. Muse. So I went on the cruise and did what I had to do, and here I am. Now, Rosenwald to me is very special. It's special for two reasons. Number one, I had siblings to go there. I went there. It wasn't called Rosenwald before. It was a little wooden school that was before my time. And the little wooden school was moved for, I do believe, Williams Chapel Church. And that's when the school was built in the 30s. Rosenwald School was built in the 30s. So that's when we had a chance to actually get into a school. Well, I wouldn't have known about that, but kids before me, my sister knew some things about that to get into that. But ironically enough, at Fisk, some of the funding papers of Julius Rosenwald are housed there. So that's a double tie for me. Mm-hmm. So I was pleased to be there because of that and know the history of Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington and all of that. And Booker T. Washington was the one who actually did, I do believe, Tuskegee, and his kids went to Fisk. So, and then I had a cousin to go to Fisk, L.C. Hastings, Congressman Hastings, went to Fisk. As I said, John Lewis went to Fisk. Frederica Wilson Smith was in my class. She is a congressman from Miami. She's still there. She went to Fisk. So there are a lot of connecting ties that you have to the university and friends that you have and places you've been, people you've seen, and it all comes back to basically Julius Rosenwald and what he did there. Now, I was really upset that the school closed because that was the hub of the school. We talked about that for a long time, but Rosenwald actually closed July 2011. They had turned it into a special ed education school. And we received a letter from Vogel at the time saying that the school would be closed, and the letter came out in May and the school closed in July. And you have a copy of that letter in there. Okay.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on what you'd like to see done with the property out there?
Well, I'd like to see educational components, really. I really would. I don't know exactly what all they plan. There are plans for it, and they said they're going to do some educational components and some other things. But to be real specific right now, I couldn't tell you what they're going to do. But I'd like to see some things put into Rosenwald to give folk a heads up. I like to see adult education so people can learn about wills and probates and insurance and things to help them, and savings accounts and a daycare for the kids so they're not looking for places to go. A lot of the parents would work if they had some place for the kids to go. So yes, there are some specific things. I'd like to see it become a hub again so we could have meetings there, community meetings and different events, things to help that little area grow. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good plan. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that brings community together and people are learning are good things.
Computer skills for them, how to go on and do a resume, how to use the computer to their advantage. Computer can be dangerous, but if used the right way and taught the right way and told certain things to look for in order to keep you out of traps. It's a good thing. So I'd like to see that happen. Now, I know everybody has a phone, but not everybody has access to a computer. So,
That's
and I'd like
very
to see,
true.
no. And I'd also like to see, in the elementary school when I was there was no nurse at all. So I'd like to see a place where people can go and learn where to get services, healthcare services, dental services. And I know the health department is there and you can go, but not everybody has a car to get up there to Airport Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done in the community for the community. Mm-hmm. So. My freshman year in college, I do believe 1960, and you have a picture of an article of that where the school burned, Rosenwald burned.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually talked for years after that school burned and the school was closed in July of 2011. We talked a lot about what the school board could possibly do for the school, but it didn't get anything done for us. It was closed. And I was actually hurt because that little community is one of the only communities where the school didn't come back. Longwood Elementary School was reopened. So that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
To know that we lost that. We lost that. Mm-hmm. And I'm being honest with you.
And I appreciate that.
That hurts. Yeah, it does. So there are a lot of things. My Karen went to Rosenwald. The older of my two kids, she went to Rosenwald. And she went over to Sterling Park with me. My son did not go to Rosenwald. He went to Sterling Park with me. Karen went to, what is it called? Tuscaloosa. She was at Sterling Park, but she skipped a grade. And she went to Tuscaloosa with her classmates that were there at Sterling Park. They gave me special permission to get her there because she was in the gifted program. So they gave me special permission to get her there at Tuscaloosa. My son, Paul III, he went to Sterling Park with me, and then he went to Millwee, which is now, that used to be Lyman. And then they both went to Lyman and finished high school at Lyman. So, like I say, we are home, it's school, and the kids went to school in the community. It was a little bit different for them. They were able to move and maneuver through the system,
mm-hmm.
and are doing quite well.
Mm-hmm. Good. It sounds like, generations of Seminole County schools and lives interconnected with the community.
Yes. And that's why I say I can't separate one from the other, because the community is so much a part of my life. Mm-hmm. Knowing all of the older people there and the teachers there and the preachers there and the wise ladies there and all of that. So it's very much a part of my life. So.
Well, thank you, Cora. This was really nice. I appreciate.
Okay, I hope I gave you what you what you wanted. Now, in your packet there are some things in there that you just might want to pull out, and I can tell you a little bit about those.
That sounds good.
This right here is the initial yearbook. Now, I won't give you this because I don't have one.
So it's the 1966.
In 1966.
Rosenwald yearbook.
And in it, you have 2 pages from this book. The 2 pages that you have from this book are, you have this one right here, Miss Cedar Mason Neal, the dedication.
Yes.
You have that one. And you have, where's Mr. Muse? Did it fall out? let's see if I can find it. Administration. And Mr. R.T. Mill, we was principal at that time, superintendent. And you have Mr. Muse here. That was the principal that I taught under. Mr. Hamilton was the one that I went to school under. This is the one I taught under. And you have Emma Walton, who was a student at Rosenwald, and he hired her as secretary when she got out of secretarial school. It's on your sheet right here.
I'm correcting a spelling.
Okay. Okay. It's there.
Yes.
Okay, and here are some of the teachers. She's from the community.
So Miss Stevens.
And this was the Miss Muller was the itinerant music teacher. This is when we actually got a music teacher. She came in as Miss Rackert from Orlando. She came in as a music teacher. Okay, and I'm trying to find Mr. Muse and Miss Seaver. You got that? Okay. And then this is the year that my husband taught at Rosenwald.
That's right.
He taught at Rosenwald 1 year. Okay. This is the
Crooms yearbook.
The Crooms yearbook, 1959. Let's see if I can find me. There I am there. And all of
National Honor Society, Tri-High Y, NHA, Thespians.
Yes. Yep. And all of these are classmates and we're having our grand reunion this year. So hopefully I get a chance to see a lot of these who have not passed on. But yes, a lot of these. Yep. And this is the Fisk yearbook.
From 1963.
Yep. That's when I finished. Let's see if I can find me in here. Fisk has a beautiful campus. That's the freshmen. Where are the seniors? I said I was going to mark it, and I didn't do that. This looks like my class here, though. Let's see if I can find it. I'm looking for Walters. I'll go back. Well, I can show you Frederico while I'm in here. Frederico Smith. There's Freddie right there. The congressman. There she is. And where am I? And where's John Lewis? He's in here somewhere. Or did I put that in here for that? Yeah, there's John Lewis there.
So you and John Lewis were in the same class?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We were in the same class.
Wow.
Yeah, same class. And there I am there. Right there. Yeah, we were in the same class.
Yep.
Same class. Yep. Years ago. Anything else you want to ask me? Feel free.
No, not unless there's anything else you want to share. This has been really enlightening and enjoyable, so I appreciate your time.
I hope I answered all of your questions.
You did.
Okay.
Go ahead and... Cora Snead interview continued.
1965 to 1966, I was fourth and sixth grade teacher at Jackson Heights. Okay. And then 1966 to 67, I taught fourth grade at Rosenwald. Then 1967 to 68, I was first grade teacher. 1968 to 1975, kindergarten teacher at Rosenwald. 1975 to 83, kindergarten teacher. And I did do first grade in there. I don't know whether I got the year. Yeah, here it is, 1967 to 68, first grade at Rosenwald. So then 1983 to 91, I was the primary education specialist at Sterling Park. 1991 to 92, primary education specialist at Heathrow. 1992, they cut out prep, first grade teacher at Heathrow. And of course, I went to Crooms, BA Psychology, Fisk, Masters of Arts degree at Rollins. And also took a crisis intervention class, 1988-99, and certified in the areas of elementary education, sociology, 7th through 12th, math, junior high, early childhood education. And of course, during the time when I taught, we had to take the Florida Performance Test in order to keep your certificate. And I'm a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And you probably have heard about that. And I am also a member and charter member of the Altamont Springs chapter of the Links Incorporated.
And what is that?
Links is a service organization and strictly service. I was president and vice president, and what we do, we're service to meet the needs. The mission is to meet the needs of people, service to all people, to get them education. We give scholarships, and it's an international organization. So it's a lot. And when I was teaching, I was Seminole Education Association, a Seminole County Reading Association, Florida Reading Association, National Education Association, and at Rollins I was in the Kappa Delta Pi because of education, and it was mainly a professional, intellectual, to encourage professionalism and just high standards of morals and ethics and that kind of stuff. And 1972, I was Teacher of the Year at Rosenwald. 82, 83, Teacher of the Year at Sterling Park. 1984, 85, I was Prep Program Honorable Mentions. And 1985, 86, Staff Development Improvement Award. And in 1991, 92, Teacher of the Year at Heathrow. So I was the first Teacher of the Year at Rosenwald, first Teacher of the Year at Sterling Park, and first Teacher of the Year at Heathrow. So a lot of that.
And you're involved with the Evergreen Cemetery as well.
Yes. And because the cemetery, of course, you know, I'm sure Alton has told you, it's in Castleberry. But members of the community from the East Altamont community are buried there. And there were those shotgun houses. A lot of people lived out there, 9 shotgun houses. So it was in much disarray. So Alton and I and Levi Dixon got together and decided that we wanted to clean it up. So now it's a beautiful resting place.
It really is.
A beautiful resting place. So yeah, that was my mom's passion. Her mom's passion was to have a nice resting place for her family. So she would gather us up and go out and clean the area, and we would cut down the sand pines for Christmas trees. That was our Christmas tree. So all of those things, you know, are part of me. All right. And of course, I married the man from Birmingham, Alabama. So I had a lot to see in Tennessee, in Altamont, and in Birmingham. When I say a lot, I mean a lot to see about segregation and integration and all of that. So I'm familiar with a lot of that. And of course, he taught school for a year, but he was district administrator of HRS back at the time. Did you know that? So. All right, and I got 2 loving kids, Karen and Paul III.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I will continue to be a community advocate.
It doesn't seem like that's ending anytime soon.
No, I'd like to see something happen with that building before I'm at Evergreen.